Okay, hey guys. This is like my fifth time trying to record this. But okay, I am trying to do a recording on how to stitch one of the ninja, that's what I call it, style looking masks. Specifically the Cricut Design Space one. Um, and this is not my disclaimer. I don't make videos, so this might be a little janky. And also, I am following the tutorial I watched from Carol from Cricut Design Space. And the only reason why I'm doing a video on top of hers or another video is because she does not show her sewing the fabrics together. And I know for beginners that might be little hard to um, catch what she did. So that's the reason why I'm recording this video. So as I was recording, like I told you, this is like my fifth time trying to record it. And so I had already started it before I realized I had made a mistake. So I'm going to try to compensate for that. So I did not download the Cricut Design Space template, but it is very, very similar to the one I did download. So I'm going to do it the exact same way they do it for that Cricut. It's just that I didn't want to take out my Cricut to create the pattern. Um, this one I got from www.craftpassion.com. I'll leave a link at the bottom so that you guys can get it. She has 3 different sizes: men, women, and children. And so because it was online, I was able to just print it on some regular copy paper rather than get out my Cricut to have it cut it. Just didn't want to do that. Okay, so you had to cut out 2 of each of these pieces. So you have to cut out 2 pieces of this one. This is the inside lining piece. The only difference between the other piece and this piece is this one's just shorter. Okay, so it and so it gives you a 1/4 inch seam allowance. So if you could see, that is about what a 1/4 inch is. Okay. All right. All right. Then this is the outside piece. This is the piece that you will see in the front. And the only difference between, like I said, that one and this one is that it has a 1 inch allowance for you to fold over. So it's just a longer piece. Okay. So that is those 2 pieces. So you're going to cut out 2 pieces of this one and 2 pieces of that one. Okay, so what I did before I turned on my camera was I took my 2 pieces of this one that I cut and I put them right side together. So I put them right side, so this will be the right side. Okay, and then I put the right sides together. So I have just 2 pieces like this. And then I just sew around the edge. Okay. And again, I try to stick into that 1/4 seam allowance that they gave us. And I'm using black thread because I figured a lighter thread would be harder to see on camera. Okay, then I took my other piece, did the exact same thing. So I just sewed around, put them right sides together, sewed around the front of it, the curved part. And then the only difference between between my lining piece and this piece is that once I sewed it around, I laid it down. I laid the piece where I sewed down. See, I just laid it down with an iron, and then I sewed on top of what I laid down. So you can see that there's a second line across the front of it. That's where I sewed it down, just so that it would lay flat. Okay, so it would lay flat on the inside. Okay, so I hope that helps. I hate that I just didn't want to cut another pattern and just start over. So if you have any questions, just the people who are going to be watching it know me anyway, so just call me. Okay, so now my next steps, now that I've got my 2 things sewn together, is I am going to fold the seam allowance that they gave us on the two up and down ends. So I am just going to fold it about that much, and I'm gonna iron it down using my Cricut mini press, by the way, but you can use a regular iron. And come to the other side. Okay, come to the other side and do the same thing. So I am just folding it about 1/4 of an inch, and okay. Then I'm going to do the same thing for my other piece. I'm going to fold it about 1/4 of an inch, and I'm gonna iron that down, and then I'm going to fold it about 1/4 of an inch on the other side, and iron it down. All right, so now I'm going back to my machine, okay, and I am going to sew down my seam allowance. All right, so if you could see, I sewed down the seam allowance. You can't really see that, but see, I sewed down the seam allowance. And I'm going to do the same thing for my lining piece. I'm just going to sew down the seam allowance. All right. Yeah, you can see it better on the yellow. Oh well. Okay, so see, I just sewed down the seam allowance. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I am going to take my two pieces and I am going to put them together, right sides together. So here goes the right side of this fabric and the right side of this fabric, and I'm going to put them together, and I'm going to line up the seams down the middle. Okay, and once I got it all lined up and ready to go, then I'm going to pin it so that it don't move. Let me snip some of this excess thread. Okay, it's pretty good. All right, so next thing I am going to do once I've got it all I've got it all pinned together, is I am going to sew across the top again using that 1/4 seam allowance. Sew across the top, and I'm going to stop at the edge for me I'm going to stop at the edge of my yellow fabric. So I'm going to stop right here. And then on the other side, I'm going to stop right here. And I'm going to do that same thing across the bottom. So I am going to sew from one yellow end to the other yellow end. So in general, you're just going to be sewing across the bottom of your lining fabric. That gives you a better idea. So you don't have to sew all the way to the end. Okay, so here we go. All right. Okay. So I'm gonna start at one end of my fabric, and I am going to start back stitch. And just make sure back stitch. Okay, so as you can see, I sewed across the bottom of that, and now I'm going to sew across the top. The top part is a little bit trickier because that's the curve, but we got this. Okay, now I'm going to take my pins out. I don't need them anymore. We are sewn down. Okay. All right. So I took my pins out, and so these are they are sewn down. So as you can see, I've got these pockets. Okay. So my next step is to turn it right side out. Turn it right side out. Okay, so it's all bubbly and funky. And so what I am going to do is I am going to press all my little seams down, because you see how it's all bubbled up right here. When you press them down, it's going to make them nice and flat. And then I'm going to come back and do the next step. So okay. And do the same thing for the bottom seams. Just press them down. Especially where that middle seam is. Give it a nice press. All right. Okay. So now you could tell this is the inside. This is the outside. I don't know if you could tell the difference now with it pressed. You see how much flatter it is once you press it? Okay. So now I'm going to top stitch again along the top and the bottom. Now, as you can see, once I folded it, when I folded it in, my outside fabric has folded in right here on the top and then the bottom, so that we don't have a raw edge. That same thing on this side. Let me go ahead and just iron those folds down because we need them. So I should have done it on both sides, so I'm just ironing that fold down on both sides. Okay, now maybe we could see it better. Okay, cut all this string. Okay. All right. So I'm trying to get in focus. Okay. All right. So you could see how it has folded down here, and then same thing on the other side. It's folded down here, folded down here. What you're going to do is you're going to top stitch. So you're going to come on this side of it and you are going to stitch. Now I am going to top stitch all the way across. I'm going to stitch from the end to the end. And the reason I'm doing this is because I want to go ahead and sew that extra little piece down. Okay, so I am going to top stitch across the top and also top stitch across the bottom. So I'm going to start at the end. Okay. Come on. No, that's horrible. All right. Okay. So, as you could see, now, excuse my stitching. It looks horrible, but you get the idea. It is top stitched across the whole top of it, all the way from end to end. Same thing on the bottom. Top stitched from end to end. And so now you've sewn down those two little lips. Okay, let me get rid of some of this thread. Okay. Yeah, I've got thread everywhere, y'all. Okay. All right. So we are coming around to the last part. So, for my tie, I'm using that t-shirt thread. Don't get me to line about how long it is. I think if I were going to guess, it's about 3 feet long, maybe around 40 inches. And just get, people have used cutting up a t-shirt and just pulling it like a 1.5 inch strips and then just pulling it and it kind of does this. Or I found that, well, someone told me that dog ties, what do you call it? Dog toys from Dollar Tree. And so I went and got one and I unraveled it and there were tons and tons and tons of these t-shirt ties wound up in the dog ties. So that's where I got these from. It's all different types of colors and stuff for you to choose from. I wish I had one. Okay. I started unraveling this one, but this is a dog tie I got from Dollar Tree. And I started unraveling it. And look, guys, look at all the t-shirt ties. It's a little hassle to get these knots undone. That's why I kind of stopped because it was a little bit tedious. But once you unravel it, you have long pieces of t-shirt, and look at all these different colors, right, that you can match your fabrics with. So very nice. Okay, so back to it. So the design I'm using to put the ties in are the one that kind of loops around the back of your head, and then you tie around the back. So this is the top of the mask. Obviously, this is the bottom of the mask. I'm going to put my loop, or just take my, well, let me start from the beginning. What I'm going to do is I am going to take the ends and I am just going to tie a knot in them. So just to help them not slip out of the mask. Okay, right? And now I am going to line it up, fold it in double, and I am going to line it up with each of the sides. So all I'm going to do, if you could see, is I'm just so it's going to make a loop at the bottom of your mask. And the reason being is, so especially for those of them, when you untie it, then it can just hang from your neck without you having to take it off, or without you having to put it down somewhere and get germs on it, or try to look for it because you've lost it because you put it down. It'll just hang from your neck, and then when you're ready, you can tie the top tie back on. Okay, so this is, I am going to put, you can't see what I'm doing. Okay, so I'm going to put one side of the tie on the inside, and I am doing this because to me it's harder to feed it through these channels. So I am just going ahead and putting it in ahead of time. Now, if you're scared that you are going to sew on top of the actual tie, then just go ahead and do this step without the tie in and just feed the tie in later. But I'm putting the tie in, and I am just folding that extra piece of fabric, and I'm not folding it on top of the yellow. I'm folding it next to the yellow, so right up against the yellow. Okay, and that is so that I can leave this open for someone who's trying to put a filter in here. So I am just folding it all on top of the yellow, and I am going to just stitch it closed. Okay. Okay, so I am just going to stitch it closed, making sure that I do not stitch over the yellow, because again, I want to keep it open. And voila. What? Uh-oh. Y'all, I was not sewing. For the worst tutorial ever, Oscar nominee goes to. All right. Okay, try that again. It didn't stitch for some reason. Okay, so now if you want to give it a more finished look, you could zigzag stitch right there, give it a little character, but I did not. Okay. All right. So as you can see, it's stitched in here. I can pull. Okay. So now I am going to come around the other side and do the same thing. Remember, I want my loop. At the bottom. So I'm going to put my loop in there. I'm going to fold it over so that it's right up against my insert, but not on top of it. And I am going to stitch that down. Make sure the string's not in the way so you don't catch it. Got stuck. Okay, we're going to try that again. There we go. All right, and that is it, y'all. That is the entire thing. This is a finished mask. Not the neatest, but it is finished. I don't know how I did that. So, here goes my mask in the front. Okay. With the, as you could see, then there's a loop on the bottom. And then here goes the mask on the back with the pockets that you could put filters in or whatever else you want to put in as extra protection. Again, what you would do is you would put this mask on loop first. So you put this loop around your head, and then you would tie this as tight as you want around your face. All right, hope that helped. Bye, y'all.